Just kind of sorting out the valves here. They come packed in an oil impregnated paper and wrapped in small plastic bags, so I'm just kind of separating out the exhaust and intake valves. Bring it back. What I'm doing is just cleaning up the head, getting all the carbon deposits off of what would be the combustion chamber part of the head. It was pretty caked on. I've gone over it once. Kind of gone over with the Scotch-Brite pad over there and cleaned it up. I'm not gonna clean it up totally because I've got to go over and grind the valve seats out. So I just want to get it somewhat cleaned up before I start doing that. Pad keeps loading up with carbon because of sitting carbon because of how much was on it. Again, I'm not going to totally clean it until after I get the valve seats around. I'll bring it back. What I'm doing here is just checking the existing valve clearance down into recess down into the seat. When I check the clearance between the valves and the pistons, the new pistons with the new cam in it, I checked it with the existing valves before I cut the new ones. So what I want to do is get the new ones recessed down into the seats about the same distance so that I know that I've got good valve piston clearance. Bring it back. I'm going to shoot a video here of me boring out the valve seats on the Cummins 5.9. What I've got, he got bigger performance valves for the head, and in order to get the valve seats or the valves into the seat, you've got to actually bore both the intake and the exhaust valve out and then reseat it afterwards. So what I'm doing is kind of setting it up here to get it centered, the mill centered onto the valve seat. And what I'll do is I'll run this coaxial indicator around the valve seat, center it up on that. Now I did a test sample on another head, and I had an issue with me moving the bed of the lathe off of the center of the valve in between cuts to kind of check how the valve was seating or setting into the new port that I'm boring out. When I took it out and brought it back to zero, after a couple of times of doing that, it for some reason threw it off about 0.010 of an inch. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot on the seat. So what I've got to do is I'll set it up on the center of this with a coaxial indicator. I'll take a center pointer and put a valve stem in here and make sure that I am on center of it. Do the bore totally before I ever move the bed, so that way when I bring it back, you know, if I move it back and forth, or I don't move it back and forth, I won't have that issue again. So here it is setting up. I've got the coaxial indicator in there, turn the mill on, and you can see that I'm getting a variation of a little bit. It's down to about 0.5 thousandths right now, so that's good. What I'll do is I'll kind of lock the bed. Sometimes when you lock the bed, it moves a little on you. Yeah, it's still about 0.5 thousandths, so that's good enough. What I'll do is I'll pull this coaxial indicator out of there, put another collet in there with a center finder or a center. Now see here, it appears to be off a little bit. So actually what I'm going to do is reset it, put that coaxial indicator back in there again, make sure that I get the same reading with that thing, and then recheck this, because it actually looks like it's off a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. Let me bring you back after I get that reset. Okay, so I reset it up again, and I'm getting that reading, and a good reading on the valve seat. The problem is that when I bring that center finder down on the valve stem, it doesn't look like it's in center of it. gonna try one more thing here. What I'm gonna do is take that out. Take the offset one out, and I have a straight one, and see if I can run it down into the bore of the valve stem seat. Sorry for getting in your way here. See, that was just off, just slightly from my other reading. I probably only moved the bed maybe a thousandth or so. I actually just touched the handle a little bit to get it to read like that. Yeah, see, now that is better. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Apparently, this original seat wasn't actually, the valve was probably offset in the seat a little bit. I'll stick the boring head in, bring you back for that. Okay, I'm probably not going to shoot a lot of this. I put the boring head in, kind of set it over to take a little out. The existing seat is tapered a little bit. I'm just going to bore it out so that I get to the base of the valve for the diameter, and then I'll cut the seat in. But anyways, I'll show you the first part of it. It's going to be pretty noisy. I've got to set the DRO so that I know my depth of cut. So there's a first pass. I've got to go down, I've got to take off approximately 150 thousandths out of the bore, so I'll bring you back as I progress.